On this episode of Crowdfunding Nerds, we talk about how to spot fake Kickstarter gurus and also how to avoid some marketing gimmicks. We talk about incredible claims that some people can make. We talk about the algorithms of Google and YouTube that can be manipulated to make people seem like they have more authority. We also talk about the need for gurus or so-called gurus to show their receipts and to be able to have hard numbers that they can share with people so that you can really trust what they're saying. Let's get into it.
Game begin.
Let's go.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his marketing level?
It's over 9,000!
What, 9,000? I must be using Crowdfunding Nerds.
Amazing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined by Sean this week, and we're going to talk about Kickstarter gurus. So, mostly we're going to talk about me, and some about Sean.
Incorrect.
Right?
We're going to be talking about fake Kickstarter gurus.
Oh, okay. Good. Well, I'm glad we could at least make that delineation. So, Sean, you want to kind of kick us off?
Yeah, so we're in the process of creating a YouTube channel. We sort of have one there. It's been sitting there. We have podcasts that automatically get uploaded. But we really feel like this is an area that we can tap into and that it can bring a lot of benefit to people. So we've been doing a lot of sort of research and development and seeing what's out there. When you type in Kickstarter into YouTube, what's the first videos that pop up? And to our surprise, we've seen a lot of people who probably aren't very qualified, to say the least, to be talking about Kickstarter. And I think they're well-intentioned, and some of the stuff they're saying is certainly valid. But I think there's some dangers in just seeing the first video you see on YouTube and then watching it and saying, oh, there we go, now I know Kickstarter, and then going about your merry way. So we want to talk about some warnings, maybe some suggestions of how to spot fake Kickstarter gurus, or how to spot people who maybe aren't as qualified as they appear to be in terms of should you be listening to these people? Should you be taking their advice on board?
Yeah. So I always think about this. So in another area, I am very purposeful about the content that I put inside my head. One of them would be business advice. There are so many business books out there, and many of them are garbage, total garbage. Selling books are the same way. I used to, read a ton of selling books, and there are some that are excellent and some that are just terrible. Using like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He did not become wealthy until he wrote that book. And so that's, immediate red flag for me. So it's like, am I learning from a guy that didn't make it before he wrote a book? I'm reading his book like he's an expert, but the reason he made money was because of his book. So anyway, it's one of those things that, it's very, very easy to hear something and say, this is how I do it. And you let it be implanted in your long-term memory, and you commit to this strategy that's actually bad. So, the same is true with theology, like make sure that you trust the person that you're listening to, and of course business, and then certainly crowdfunding and
test all things.
Crowdfunding. Yeah, exactly. Test all things. So you know what's good and what's bad. And the thing is, when you're less knowledgeable about something like crowdfunding, or even when there is less information available, that's one thing about Kickstarter, GameFound, all like crowdfunding strategy. It seems like overall, as an industry, there's not a ton of helpful content out there compared to, other industries like how to make money online or whatever. So in general, we stepped into this whole industry back in, I guess, late 2019, because we saw there was a massive lack of, of decent marketing companies in here, and that we could become the number one marketing company because there were just so few competitors.
And another thing to keep in mind is that when you do a search on Google or on YouTube, we have a sort of innate tendency to believe that the result at the top has more authority, or that it's more accurate, when really there's a lot of factors that go into what's happening behind search and algorithms. Usually, particularly on YouTube, usually what's being promoted is that which is most popular, has the longest watch time. So it doesn't mean that the video at the top is the most accurate. It could just be that for whatever reason, it's getting the most traffic. It might have a better thumbnail, it might have a better headline. They might be better pushing their own audiences there. So the video that you're seeing is not necessarily the one that has the best information. It's just the one that is most popular. And that's something to be very aware of, particularly when you're trying to find information through search, whether it's Google or whether it's through YouTube, that the one at the top does not necessarily mean it's going to be the best advice that you can get out there.
Yeah. And actually, when looking at Google and YouTube, so Google search is, so what incentivizes them? It simply boils down to you wanting to use that service again. And the way that Google search works, it's all about user intent. I'm looking for something because I'm motivated by need and I want to find the best match for the thing. That is not the same on YouTube. You might think it's the same, but it's not. So so let me first explain what I mean by when I'm talking about Google search. You are looking for something, I don't know, you're looking for a local chiropractor or a local hair salon or a local board game shop or whatever. There are several factors that matter quite a lot. One is the distance to to the various board game shops that are listed. Like, I live probably an hour away from one of the coolest board game shops around called Nightwatch Games in San Antonio. And if that was the first result, it would actually be pretty disappointing because that's an hour away. There are, 4 or 5 board game shops in my city, and it is likely that I am looking for a local shop. If I'm looking for a gym, I'm not looking to drive an hour. And so there are certain bits of intent in the customers when they're using Google search that make Google, and Google has been trying to understand what people want for a very long time, right?
Since the ARPANET.
Yes. So Google understands, and we operate on Google. Half of our business is since May of 2012. We've been search engine optimization specialists for small businesses and whatnot, and I've worked for 850 clients in that arena, and over the 12 years that we've been doing that. And it's absolutely clear that you want to show the user that they made the right choice when they went to your site. So that, that's very important. Now, YouTube, I'll contrast by saying I've ranked YouTube videos, but it seems to be more about entertainment than answering a question. So, for example, sensationalist headlines like, don't use Kickstarter, do this instead.
Scam.
Yeah, it's like there's a whole Reddit for a subreddit dedicated to saving you a click. It feels like people are so easily baited on YouTube, and that is not so much the case on Google, because their search intent, they can just search again and search again until they find, they'll use longer and longer key phrases and type longer and longer phrases in Google to get closer to what it is they're looking for if they didn't feel like that was a good search. On YouTube, they do the doom scroll, and it can be very, very low quality results with lots of views and interesting thumbnails, and built for, I feel like excellent YouTube videos now are built for Zoomers that cut every 2-3 seconds and are just very ASMR and have other elements. But
here's some dopamine. Here's some more dopamine.
yeah. So YouTube's incentive, the way that I see it, and again, I'm just one guy, but I have a lot of experience in this area. YouTube is more about entertaining you so that you'll click on another video.
Yeah. So one thing I want to come back to, because you talked a little bit about SEO, and what you just did there is that you demonstrated that you're not faking it because you have numbers behind your expertise. You said that you've run over 800 clients since 2012. So you have not only a number of clients you've run for, but you also a date when you started. This is very important because you often see a lot of these YouTube videos of Kickstarter gurus, or I suppose anywhere you'd find some type of guru trying to sell you their marketing services or whatever, is that they'll just jump into the information. And this can be concerning because we don't know who these people are, and they don't tell you anything solid about their background or share any kind of solid numbers. They just speak authoritatively about Kickstarter. And then what they might be saying is very true, but who are they to tell you that this is the case? And so it's just something you need to be careful of, that some people can speak very authoritatively in these videos, but you're kind of thinking, well, who are you to tell anybody? What experience do you have? What success rate do you have? And so on and so forth. So that's one of the things. It's just,
let me hop in on that one because even with what I said, I could have totally made those numbers up. Obviously, I say obvious because it's obvious to me. I have all that experience. I didn't make those numbers up. We've done lots of case studies, and even you can even go to our website and see case studies on Next Level Web. But I guess it's all about, in my opinion, it's as much about. So actually, let me use a different type of example. So you go look up a board game because you want to, you're thinking about buying it. Cloudspire by Chip Theory Games, which is a game that I really, really love that I can almost never get to the table. And you just like Cloudspire review into YouTube, and then first two reviewers you watch say, I didn't like Cloudspire. Does that mean that Cloudspire is a bad game? No. Does that mean that it's a bad game for you? Not at all. What you really need to understand is like, what kind of games do those people like? And so, or, vice versa. If someone says, well, Cloudspire is the best game ever. What you really need to understand is like, what is the taste of those content creators? Do they like games like that? Do they like games like me? And so, what you really want to do is, when you're looking up for a board game review, is you want to have found a creator that has tastes that are similar to yours. For example, like Sam Healy, Alex Radcliffe, and Jesse Anderson of Quackalope, and actually to an extent Tom Vassell of Dice Tower have similar tastes in games that I have. So if any of them say that I really liked this particular game, then there's a solid chance that I will as well. And so I'm more likely to take their reviews more seriously for myself because they match up more closely with me. So what I'll do is I'll actually type, and this is when, like, I think this is an educated YouTube search, is I'm looking for, Sam Healy review of Blood Rage or, that kind of thing. That's what I type into YouTube. I'm looking for a specific person's opinion on something. And so let me parlay this to so-called experts on YouTube. When you see a video from, expert one on YouTube about, never use Kickstarter, do this instead. The first thing you should probably do is to research that person, figure out what is their expertise. Like Crowdfunding Nerds, I can tell you we have about 175 crowdfunding campaigns under our belt. We've raised between $15 and $20 million for creators. 80% of those are first timers, and we fund almost every single campaign that comes through our door. In fact, I think we are certainly like 5 or 6 failures, and some of those have relaunched to success and all of that. That's a good track record, a really good track record that we can show. We work with big IPs, we work with small things. You can find all of that without listening to the propaganda machine that is Andrew Lowen talking to you right now in your earbuds. You can actually go to our website. You can ask on social media. You can, search around and say, who are these crowdfunding nerds and are they legit? I think it's really important to qualify the people, the experts, so-called, that you're listening to.
In fact, what we've recently done is we've created a clients list on our website. So we list all the people we've ever worked with. So you can go to those publishers, you can go to those individuals, and you can message them. Say, hey, Crowdfunding Nerds have listed you on their website. They said that you have worked with them. How's your experience with them in the past? Do you recommend them? Do you not recommend them? And then you're going to get a completely honest reply from those people, because they've got no incentive to tell you which any which way. So that's one reason why we did that. So people can see these are all the clients that we have worked with, and go chat to them if you want. Go reach out and message them and see how their experiences with us were. So one thing I'd say is, so the bullet point here is for people to show their receipts. When people make incredible claims, they need to show their receipts. If they're going to say that they're some type of expert, that they're going to speak authoritatively on a subject and educate you and say, hey, I've got something to tell you that you don't know, well, then show your receipts, show the results. And this can be done with hard data, with numbers, and not simply just, kind of waffling or saying things. I saw some of these YouTube videos, and again, a lot of them are well-meaning. I think there is valuable information in it, but they're like, oh, I've done 3 Kickstarters so far, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. I'm like, okay, you've only got 3 Kickstarters? Sure. I'm sure you've learned stuff, but it's not the same as like an agency like us. And we're approaching 200 at this point. And most of those as well, just to be clear, are in the tabletop gaming or the video gaming space, particularly focusing on gaming. So that's where our niche, that's where our expertise is in gaming. So something to keep in mind. You might find someone who's very competent at crowdfunding. They've got some Kickstarters under their belt, but it might be in a completely different industry. And there's a completely different approach, completely different, way of thinking, and even a profitability for different types of campaigns. So something to keep in mind. I think that's another thing, is that one thing that separates us, I suppose, from a lot of other so-called gurus and even agencies, is that we are a digital marketing agency, Next Level Web, with a crowdfunding arm, Crowdfunding Nerds, that specializes in tabletop games. But we also have a publishing company, Lowen Games, that's produced our own tabletop game, Deliverance, and has successfully crowdfunded that and is continuing to develop that project. So we have a lot of expertise in digital marketing as a whole.
Not just that. I mean, you published a game, and then Ryan published a game.
Yes, exactly. So we even have people in our team who have published games of varying degrees. So we come into this space not only as marketers, but also as publishers. So we have a lot of industry connections that can help you and connect you with other people within the industry. So if you need someone to help you with distribution, we have people we can recommend. You need someone to help you with Amazon and e-commerce sales, we can recommend people to you. You need illustrators and even game designers, we have people we can recommend to you. So
right. Which pledge manager is the best? Which crowdfunding platform should I use? Like, those are all questions that we answer for free for people that consult with us,
Yeah. Some people, I feel like they kind of milk it, because it's like they hire us for marketing, and then they have all these kind of like publishing questions. They're like, okay, we'll help you with this, no problem. We send them on their way.
Yeah. And I do want to, because I think there are some people listening that are like, being a devil's advocate, saying, well, combined, I mean, Andrew, Lowen Games has only made 1 game. And you're telling me that somebody that made 3 games is less of an expert and whatnot. And now, don't be fooled. We have run 175 Kickstarter campaigns. That's the number that you should pay attention to. And what I think, being gamers and game publishers, that helps us understand our people, and I think that that's probably the most important piece of the puzzle. It's like, I can tell you what to do, but to understand what you're going through, it allows like that next level of service that, and like, for example, I can tell you that like right before your Kickstarter begins, you're going to feel like you're on the top of a roller coaster. And then by the time your Kickstarter ends, you'll be a puddle of water on the ground. Plan some time off, other things. I can tell you what I did during my mid-campaign, what you could do during your mid-campaign. And all of that is not necessarily things you pay me for. They're just bits of advice that I have that work for me. When you have a question, I will say, yes, I have experienced that, or I've experienced something similar because of my own experiences, running my publishing company, building my audience from nothing, and trying to make this brand new thing work. But really, the expertise that we've gained is in helping others fund. I mean, that's the fact that we've funded games is a nice bonus, but that we've helped hundreds of others fund is probably almost hundreds. I guess we're at 175. What is that? Many dozens of people? Is that what you call it? So
one thing I think we should touch on as well is, I don't know if you want to get into this, but like marketing gimmicks.
okay.
So there's a lot of different techniques out there. Some of them that we find useful, some less. And I think a lot of this can happen is because certain agencies are probably better optimized for different industries. So you might find certain techniques that work well. And I can fully admit that our techniques don't work very well with some other industries. For example, we have a lot of emphasis on building a community space to kind of chat and talk. This works really well for games because games, there's rule books, there's people you can chat about, there's components you can chat about, there's games you can talk about, there's meme culture that you can tap into. Well, if you've got something
games
that
look great on pictures and video.
Exactly. But if you've got maybe something like like a tech product, having a little community around like
the coolest belt.
Yeah, or like the new mouse that you've just produced, something is probably not going to work as well as. So I think our system is better tailored towards things in which people can kind of surround themselves around, rather than maybe like utilities or utility tools. It doesn't work as well.
It's an experience, I think, that we're really good at marketing. We're really great at marketing experiences. Very interestingly, this actually never went anywhere. But remember from the 90s, those eyeballs that were like squishy red. Like they were basically squishies in the 90s. And there were these like, it was an eyeball that you could like hold in your fingers or hold in your hand and like squish. And there would be red juice on the inside that go. They contacted us and, I want to say 6 months ago, and we're like, hey, we're relaunching this thing. It was like one of the most popular toys from the 90s and we're crowdfunding it and that sort of thing. And it didn't go that far, but I thought, man, how are we going to market this as an experience? It's like there's so much competition now, and I don't know how. Like I found myself at a little bit of a loss. Like I can turn the marketing machine on and I can get clicks and I can get emails and that sort of thing. We can do our best to say this product's amazing and whatnot on the landing page, but there's so much competition. Like what is going to differentiate this from competitors now that are available for, $5 at your local Target or, I don't know, Walmart. What do you guys have over there in the UK?
Pound stores.
Yes. So yeah, like Dollar Tree is really popular. Yeah. So, I think that, that's Poundland. That's tough. That's like the $2 store in the US. It's like, dang. So, anyway, I think that certain products, we actually will vet, every single product that comes through our agency, not because we want to keep our success rate really high or anything like that. We will work with people that have 0 emails on their list and that don't even know the first thing about Kickstarter. We'll work with that as long as the product is good, right? As long as the product is solid, we can build and help the person along. But, bottom line, the product needs to be solid. So,
so in terms of
gimmicks that you can run.
Yeah, there's certain marketing techniques which they might work in other areas better, but I think a lot of it comes down to perceived value. And there might be things that work in the short term, but I think they can negatively in the long term impact your brand, especially if you're using some type of gimmick or trick that is manipulating people. I think you'll be very careful of this. One thing that our system that we've
planting one tree for every belt sold. We're going to plant one tree for every belt sold. Anyway, carry on.
So one thing that we, and the system that we set up, this virtuous cycle, which is episode 14 that you'd like to quote a lot, is
it's one of our most listened to episodes, probably because I chime on it so much.
When there's an exchange of value, people are connected, and we see the value, the email transfer as a form of value. They're entrusting you with something valuable, and you have to then steward that email correctly by sending them high quality content about the thing that they want information on. And then through this process, you build a reputation, a brand with them, and then you direct them to your crowdfunding event. That's sort of the system that we've developed. I think there's other methods out there that seek to do that as well, but I think they add unnecessary value adds that I personally think, and I know, Andrew, you share the same opinion, they can kind of come across as gimmicks. And I feel that eventually they're going to become very shallow. People are going to be able to see through them. It's like, okay, this was so marketing, 2012 or whatever. Whilst I think we're trying to implement systems which transcend generations because they're just sort of universal in their principles. People have this kind of intrinsic idea of I provide something to you, you give me something in return. And there's a bit of trust being built here, and trust is earned. So it takes time. And so I think all those things are important rather than trying to find the secret formula to mind control, get people to take actions against their will. Because if you want to do that, go work for the CIA.
Yeah. So yes. And one of these is actually kind of getting really popular. The pre-launch, what are we going to call it? The pre-launch incentive.
The pre-pledge.
Pre-pledge. There you go. So when you pledge $1 to, get a 9-card, deck, or like a 9-card mini expansion for free. Only people who pre-pledge can get this. You put $1 in, and you get, and then you back the game on Kickstarter, and they'll be able to add the 9-card mini expansion to everyone that pre-pledged $1. And maybe others can buy it for $5 afterward or something, but you'll never know that others are getting it for free by the content on the Kickstarter page. It's just that pre-launch pledge of $1 in addition to the email that you're getting is, I believe, actually more of a gimmick than anything. And there's a company that we've worked with on several different projects that does this, and we find that those people that back $1, there is average when we build an email marketing campaign for so we gather emails for a client going to Kickstarter, we expect those to convert at a minimum of 10%. So we our like average conversion rate we see is like 10 to 16. Our highs are like 20. Deliverance was like 21.3%. We've had other campaigns as high as 30%. So generally 10 to 30% is where you're going to land. And we find that people that back at that $1 like pre-pledge level, those emails, they convert at like toward the higher end of that spectrum, like 20 to 30%, which is really, really great. But the people that are pledging, that are just giving you their email address and not giving you that $1 pre-pledge, they are backing at a rate that is much lower than that 10% minimum. And so what we found in each of our kind of case studies that we've personally worked in campaigns like this is that the gimmick of the $1 pre-pledge does not hold water because the averages are the same. So if you average let's just say a 15% conversion rate across all of your emails, versus like a 30% conversion rate with the $1 pre-pledge people and a 5% conversion rate with the non pre-pledge people, you are going to average to much the same. And, or, maybe less, maybe slightly higher, but just per project, like when we're averaging all of them together, the numbers are not actually much different. It's a gimmick that I think you can do that a few times, but if that's like your regular behavior, if it's your second, third, fourth accounts and that you're running, I mean, I feel like you're starting to treat people like commodities. To me, it's I call it an early bird. It's basically an early bird special that will make people upset if they learn that someone else got it and they missed out on it just because they heard about your campaign later. I advise against early bird specials. The first 40, everybody who backs in the first 48 hours gets this free thing, and then anybody else has to pay $10 for it. It just feels bad. Or, early bird special, the worst kind of early bird special is the one that's like, if you back in the first 48 hours, you'll save $10, and then the regular backers after the first 48 hours. You know, you've got like the regular price. So like your game is $40 normally, but everybody who backs in the first 48 hours gets the early bird, or the first 500 backers get early bird, and that's $30. Then everyone after that gets it for 40. What happens is you've got all these people that are happy to get it for 30, and then the rest are kind of upset, and you lower the number of people that back because they missed the early bird special. Fewer people will back at $40. So I have seen many types of early birds. There are some companies that do it well. Simon is a great example of a company that does an early bird special well. You will make more money if you do the early bird special right, but there are so many ways to do it in a gimmicky fashion that actually doesn't really make you more money. You know, I mean, like for example, you've got some people that are hardcore fans of your product, and they're going to buy it at whatever price it is. That's my goal. It's like when we go to Kickstarter with a game, or GameFound with a game project, I want people to back it because it looks so awesome, and it is just like they can't go without it because it's that great. Now, the first people to back your campaign are going to be people that feel that way. So why would you give those people a discount when they don't care what the price is and all of that? And you know, and anyway, so I guess it's a little bit different. You know, the early bird's a little bit different from that pre-pledge, but you know, just my experience, I kind of feel like they're the same type of gimmick. They're in the same realm.
I think another reason why this system's implemented is so that the publisher can say, well, we'll know how many people who are going to pledge, and then they're going to help us with our manufacturing. But then the question is, well, why even have this? Because isn't that what the crowdfunding campaign's designed to do? You're supposed to figure out your numbers there. And like, okay, this is how many people pledged. This is how big our manufacturing is going to be. So I kind of feel like it's almost like the crowdfunding event before the crowdfunding event. So answering the question why is really important there. And to me, it feels more like those, you know, those websites where it's like, oh, sign up now for our free trial, but you have to put in your credit card information. And then like, you know that they're going to automatically charge your card after so many days. So you have to remember to cancel your card. And it's like, I always just would prefer if it was just a free trial. You let me try it for 30 minutes even, before I have to because I have to give you my card details. It's annoying typing it in, and then you kind of hold it ransom. For me, that's a bad user experience.
Those people are treating you like a commodity. They expect that you will use it. You know, like for example, we have various SEO marketing tools that we use. Ahrefs and SEMrush and BuzzSumo are tools, many tools. You know, some we still use, but you know, just to name drop a few of them, they all have free trials that last 7 days that ask you to put your credit card in, and when you do that, they expect that you're going to use them for whatever thing that you're curious about one time, and then you're gone. So they have to capture that money from you while they can. And what they're doing is they're treating you like a wallet. They're treating you like a transaction, because that's kind of how they have to treat you. They're an app that needs users and needs transactions, and they're not treating you like a human, if you will, like you matter to them. But that's the type of business that they are. Now with crowdfunding, every single person, every single email that signs up on your list, you have to treat differently. You have to treat, I mean, my recommendation is that you treat every single one of them like a human and like they matter. And trying to get them to bust out their wallet, to me, what it says is you're getting them to commit so that they have to back your campaign later. Oh, they backed for $1. They have this exclusive thing. They can't back out now. They'll lose the $1 that they invested. And that's kind of like an abusive boyfriend attitude where, you know, like you can't leave now. Like I'll take the kids away or whatever. So I feel like that is not treating your audience like they would want to be treated. It's starting you off on kind of the wrong foot. It's you're a commodity. If I'm interested in the content by itself, then I'll buy it, but I have no loyalty to you at all. And you're not building any loyalty. And I think that the better way to go is to really bring your people into a community and talk to them and, you know, other things like that. It's more effort. You're going to send regular emails. You're going to have, I don't know, a Facebook group, a Discord server, places that you talk to people and that they talk to you, they ask questions and whatnot. But it's worth it for the long term. If you intend to be in this business as like a one and done, then sure, yeah, use a company like that because you are a commodity, you are unknown. But if you're looking to build a reputation and actually have a Kickstarter, one of the biggest things I see, and actually one of my personal fears with Deliverance is that we're going back to Kickstarter in the summertime, or Kickstarter Game Found. We haven't yet decided, and which we can talk about on it in a future episode. But I'm afraid, a lot of campaigns that do this thing where they fund decently well, like the first Deliverance campaign funded 300K, 314,000. I'm worried that like the next, like the expansion is going to fund like 110,000. It's like a lot of expansion campaigns do way less than the original. And what I want is to do at least double of the original. And it's going to be difficult, but there's just no way that you're going to be able to treat people like a commodity and double the amount of the next Kickstarter for an expansion, no less. There are very few companies that have managed to achieve that in what I would call like the commodity realm. I can think of the only ones that I can think of have a good relationship with their customers. So I think that you're just starting on the wrong foot if you do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think another thing is you got to kind of keep Occam's razor in your mind, which means if there's two systems or two kind of ideas, just pick the simplest one. Just go with the simplest explanation. And I kind of feel that if you're having this kind of pre-pledge system before your campaign is even live, there's a lot of things that have to be put into place to make that work. Even if you're pledging $1, you got to figure out a payment processing fee. You got to collect emails and keep a tab on that, and then line them up at the end of the campaign. All for $1? It seems like a lot of extra work in a system that is already complex, which already drives a lot of your energies and efforts. And I think that the efforts would be better in building your community and just delivering a better product and make sure that your product's good. And then you don't have to have these kind of systems in place. I think the only way that this would actually be worth your effort or time is if people are pre-pledging as a down payment for their pledge. So let's say you want to do something like stretch pay on GameFound, which allows people to pay in increments post campaign. Well, you could do that in a pre-campaign setting. So say, look, we're going to Kickstarter. Here's our pledges. So far, the numbers might change. However, if you want to put a down payment of $20 this month and then $20 the next month, and then when you go to Kickstarter, to get your $60 pledge, it's only going to cost you $20 because you've already put a down payment of $40. And I think that would make more sense because that makes sense. So that's like, okay, well, you're allowing me to
like
pay
a pre-stretch. That's kind of cool.
Like a pre-stretch, like giving them basically credit that they can then apply to the pledge manager, which might even be smart because then you can avoid some of those Kickstarter fees, the 5%.
GameFound. Oh my goodness. GameFound, if you're listening to this and you give people the ability to pay you $20 a month for whatever games are going to show up there in the future, that is going to get people, that's like pre-stretching people's budget if they're able to invest a little bit here and there. Oh man. Wow. I have a little, I don't know, goosebumps from.
No, the disadvantage of that system is that you're not going to have those kind of sexy numbers when you launch, right? Because people will only be pledging 20 instead of 60 on the day of launch with that. But hey, you're building a business, not trying to impress people. So that might be something you want to implement. So I would only recommend this kind of pre-pledge system if it was actually going to benefit the end user by making it easier for them to jump in on your pledges.
That's really the key. That's what it comes down to. There's a lot of I guess, I don't know, things that we could say, but what it comes down to is what you're doing benefiting the end user for the long term? And if it's not benefiting the user for the long term, then you probably shouldn't be doing it if you want to be a long-term company. Strategic marketing wise, you can't treat people like commodities. You can't, you've got to build a relationship. You've got to invest into, taking the time on social media. You've got to invest into sending emails. You've got to invest into, building your communities and supporting the people that are playing your game, and honestly, maybe that's not right for some people. Maybe they're super busy. They've got they've got busy lives that don't have time to actually run a publishing company, and they want to make a thing that they that they kind of they want to release a thing into the world that they've been dreaming of, and that's it. And that's okay. But I think that a lot of people listening to this podcast, they want to turn this idea they have into a lasting business. And you've got to, I mean, it's not going to happen for everybody, but it can happen for you if you're diligent. I believe that if you have a good product and you're diligent and you treat your customers right, because those are the people that are going to support you and your company and allow you to exist. That's like priority number one for me, you know?
Cool. Yeah. I think that sort of much sums it up.
So there's one thing that I really wanted to talk about, that all the things that you've been talking about with, how to spot fake Kickstarter gurus and whatnot. Anybody can have a one-shot wonder, a one-hit wonder, I guess. But consistency is something that you really want to look for in a Kickstarter guru. So, for example, if my only claim to fame was that I made $300,000 with a first project, then, it's at the moment just a one-shot wonder, a one-hit wonder. There's a movie that if you haven't seen it, I would recommend seeing it. I mean, from what I remember, it's just such a good movie every single time. It's called Ronin. The movie is about a briefcase that a group of thieves are trying to steal. And there are a bunch of different thieves trying to steal the case. And the joke is, what's in the case? What's in the case? Nobody knows what's in the case, but they're all trying to steal it. And so I believe it's Al Pacino and Sean Bean are some of the main characters. And
Did he die?
Oh, Sean Bean. No, actually, he didn't die.
Wow.
So I'm about to talk about him too. So they talk about so they know when the case is being sold. So there's this transfer happening in, I think it's in France somewhere. And they are setting up this plan for, okay, put a sniper here, put snipers here. Let's put the getaway car there and that sort of thing. So they're drawing this plan on a whiteboard. And then Sean Bean, so that's I think Al Pacino's just watching. And so Sean Bean is like, no, guys, we need to do it this way. And he's like really gung-ho and like, you guys, if we need to put a sniper here, we need to put a sniper here, we need to do this and that. And then the wise guy, I guess the guy with wisdom, not wise guy because mafia reference, but the guy with wisdom is Al Pacino, and he says, look, if you do that, then if you put snipers across from each other, they'll shoot each other. You can't do that. And then he gets this feeling. He erases the diagram, and he looks at Sean Bean and he says, draw it again. If you remember what the plan was, why don't you draw it again? And he can't, because he's not actually thinking about the plan. He's trying to be a guru. And he was totally exposed as a fraud. And instead of killing him, like in every single other show he's ever been a part of, they kick him out. And that's the end of Sean Bean in Ronin. So they just, yeah. I mean, it's made in like the 90s. So, it's but anyway, that's not the end of the movie or anything like that. That's just like something that happens in the middle. But I feel like there are so many people that would call themselves Kickstarter gurus that made a good amount of money on their first campaign, and they're using that to say, I am an expert, or look at me, or look at what we did with our clients or whatever. But I think that one and done, like one campaign, it's not enough. Like we've got a lot of campaigns that have made high six figures, campaigns that have made over $1 million, that kind of thing. But to me, that's not the campaign that I would showcase. It's, for me, oftentimes our clients are first time creators. So we can have, any one of like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 dozen campaigns that we can point to that say, yeah, this campaign made $110,000 first time creator. This campaign made $300,000 first time creator. That campaign made $600,000 first time creator. And so I find that's really, really important. So It doesn't necessarily mean they're a fake guru, if you will, when they have one campaign, but the proof is in the pudding. If you've got results to show, it better be more than one client. There are so many people that run their business, so many marketing people that run their business off of one client that go out of business. And this is very common in this industry and in marketing in general. You've got a client that provides like 80% of your revenue, and anything changes, you're out of business. There was at one point, we worked for a company that provided, it was like $6,000 a month into our business. And we made, I want to say like $180,000 a year. So it was just over a third of our revenue. And we had, at the time, we had myself and then two others that were working. And we were like kind of thin on margins as it was, with 3 employees and other expenses and all of that. And if that client let us go, then I had to work really hard to retain that client, because there were times where they weren't happy or whatever. But if they let us go, I would immediately have to say goodbye to one of my employees. If I was by myself as a freelancer, I would immediately be out of business looking for a job, like trying to catch up on other clients, trying to, fill the, fill the kitty with new business, but probably not able to make a $6,000 a month difference. It would be too difficult. And so oftentimes, what I find, Kickstarter consultants will have like one or two, like one major client that keeps the bills paid. And then they'll work for other smaller clients, which may, maybe you're coming in and talking to a Kickstarter consultant for the first time. And they present themselves as an expert, but in actuality, their business is held together by one client. And it's a dangerous place to be. In fact, actually, it's one of the things that we talked about. Like, well, I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but as a business owner, I didn't want my after the experience of having several large clients that really had the ability to tell me what to do and when to do it, how high to jump, and all of that. It's like, oh my goodness, these people are crazy. And they're making me do things that are outside of the scope of my contract. But if I upset them, then they're going to, like, I have to show that extra value. Otherwise I'm canned, because they're just kind of being irrational right now. I made the decision, right? Like, I want to say around 2015, 2016, that I didn't want to have any one client so large that they could tell us how to operate. I needed to have if you're going to play poker with someone, you have to be able to go all in. And if you're not willing to go all in, you should not be at the table. And sometimes going all in actually means like, hey, look, if this is not going to, be a good fit, then, maybe we need to, separate and, sever our arrangement, right? If you're not willing to say that, then you can't. Anyway, so I elected to just work with small businesses rather than like the big businesses. I elected to work with newer creators that really needed help, because, or small business owners that were answering the phones themselves, because when you make a meaningful difference in their business, they feel it. They see the numbers like the CEO at the top of a 50-person company does, but they actually feel the increased activity. They see greater revenue. They're actually able to do more with what it is that they have. When we work for a first-time creator, second-time creator, small business that's done 5 Kickstarter campaigns or whatever, and we make a difference for those people, they appreciate it. And I think that that's one of my my biggest thing. That's why I love working for smaller businesses, small creators. Honestly, there are many companies that you might consider large in the board game space that are just 3 people running it. And I think that those people, while they certainly appear like larger than life names on the outside, on the inside, they really appreciate it when you find ways to move their product. So. All right. Well, with all that said, I hope you guys found it useful. So to bring us to an end. Robot Richard, send us out.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. For more resources, articles, and to listen to past podcasts, please visit us at crowdfundingnerds.com. And if you have a crowdfunding question, we also have a page on our site where you can send a message directly to us. Please visit crowdfundingnerds.com/question. And if your question is a great question, we may include it in a future podcast. Thank you all again for listening to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week. Stay nerdy.